Good afternoon, brothers and sisters in Christ. I think I would be more comfortable staying down here than up there. My knees would be trembling up there. I'm bringing you greetings from the warm heart of Africa, Malawi. Yes, after witnessing the investiture with so many activities and so how active this church is, I was hesitant to even speak in front of you and letting you know awareness of the mission field out there, because what you are doing here has been a tremendous thing in even witnessing to people around you. This is one of the few occasions where I attended churches here in London and some parts of Europe, and you know how the situations would be. And I'm very happy to see that even the majority of those who come to church has been very active. Even out in the sub-Saharan continent of Africa, AY is a dying part of our church services. As if they are in big cities where Vespers and AY activities are just but a history. They just come to church during second service and everything is but a rest day. But I'm still very happy that you have invited me here in spite of the beautiful programs that you have had. And I would still have that opportunity to share with you the experience I had been through. But before I tell you my story, let me tell you the story of Jonah. Or maybe let me call this little sharing with you the power of prayer in an unlikely missionary. As we all know, since childhood, I think most of those with my age, I won't say my age, but you will know, that when we were little children, remember those little friends? When we read mission stories, we would always see mission stories of missionaries there. And it has been in my mind since from a tender age, growing up at Mountain View College, that every time anybody would ask me, what do you want to be when you get older? When you grow up, what do you want to be? And there was no hesitancy. I would always stand up and say, I'd like to be a missionary. I think it was because of these daily and morning worships which we have in our homes, especially back home. But it didn't turn up that way, as easy as that. When Jonah was told by God to go to Nineveh and preach to that big city, he knew what that city was. It was a wicked city. And when the Lord told him to go to preach to Nineveh of its destruction, what did Jonah do? He went down to Joppa, took a boat down to Tarshish, took that boat and paid his fare and went down in the bottom of the ship. And what happened? All of us know the story. He was thrown out into the waters, deep into the sea. A big fish caught him and brought him down into the bottom of the fish. This is a man of God, a missionary. Was he considered to be an unlikely missionary? Well, I also would like to relate the story of my life. I really wanted to be a missionary from a tender age. But as we grow younger, as the teenagers would be and would like to be, the lifestyle changes. And when we get to friends who don't do the things which our parents had been teaching us, we easily get hooked to some of the vices of this world. And that is what I'd gone through. Then as I've got into these vices, I thought about that intention of mine. I said, I wanted to be a missionary. But the things I'm doing is unlikely of being a missionary. But don't you know, young kids and older children, that in spite of the things that we have gone through, our tireless mothers are deep down on their knees praying for us. They always would be praying for us in spite of the activities that we have outside of the church. Yet our parents are praying that one day soon, the fruits of their labor would not be wasted. I went to college, graduated a bachelor's degree in medical technology with all of the vices. I went to medical school, the same. And in fact, I won't be ashamed to mention it even in front of my children, that one thing that kept me awake when I was studying in medical school was a cigarette smoke. It would keep me awake. But sad to say that even if we have been brought up as Seventh-day Adventist children, the devil is working very hard. He has those alluring activities of this world that will bring our young ones out of the church. But again, as I have mentioned, the prayers of the mothers would always be there. While I finished medical school, I trained for surgery, and then as I was in the fourth year of the training program, which is a 5-year training program, the training program was dissolved because we were not accredited. It's okay. Then I said, now where do I go? I don't finish my training for surgery. I won't find any good job in the Philippines. But then that thinking of mine since childhood of wanting to be a missionary was still there, being rekindled every day. When I had moments of my own where I would be meditating, it would always be there. Then I met a missionary from Africa. The Osorios came home from Africa, and since I didn't have anything to do, I just sent in my resume and said, here, bring this to Africa, anywhere in Africa. I thought every conditions would be the same anyway. So they brought that for Africa, but after 3 months, our residency training program was on again, but I had already applied as a missionary. That was, I forgot the years now, 1998. And while I was finishing, I had already received some calls coming to one of a hospital in Zambia, UK Adventist Hospital, and there were 2 Filipinos who were missionaries there. In fact, the medical director was the Filipinos. I tried communicating with him, knowing that he would help me out, but unfortunately, my emails and I tried long-distance calls were coming maybe from one ear and coming out to the other ear. But anyway, I still prayed about it because I had that earnest desire to be a missionary. And at first, most of us would maybe have that layman's understanding of how a missionary would be, that a missionary should be one that is a God-fearing, walking in church with a Bible, always in the mission field, helping people out on understanding on what the Bible is. But as I look back into my life, I did not see anything of those. They were of the world. But I prayed about it. And maybe I said, if I could not preach like our speakers this morning, then I said, maybe I could do it as a physician and work out in Africa. So I still clung to those messages that were coming. And as the final call came, I was single then. So I told my fiancée, and she was about to leave for Canada because she was a nurse. Their papers were already all arranged by her aunt who was there. But I told her, look, I have a call from the General Conference. I have prayed about it, and I think the Lord wants me to be there. If you are willing to come with me before I sign the contract, let us settle down so that when I write in the contract, it would be Mr. and Mrs. I think that took her aback and made her think, wait. Why don't you go to Africa? I go to Canada. When we come back, we settle down. And she knew that once you sign it as a missionary, if you are a family, the initial contract would be 5 years. If you are single, it will be 2 years. So she said, why don't you go as single? But I said, I don't know, it might be different out there. There might be beautiful lions and elephants out there that would attract the love that is there and maybe change things out. But I told her, pray about it. We don't have much time. I have to sign the contract. Well, I think she communicated with the parents, and with prayers, she consented. So it was, my sister even was not able to come home. It was a rush plan for wedding. My brother was not able to come home. I think they were in the Middle East at the time. They were not here in the UK. So we settled down. When my call came, we just said, we're going. Not knowing the place we were going. But I still remember promises from the Bible. You know, this is the importance of these foundations that we have had from the little children. So I really appreciate the mothers and the fathers who have brought their children from adventurer going up to the different classes of these clubs of our church. Because I myself is a master guide. So I appreciate all the hard efforts that you have done, because this foundation of these little children will cling to their hearts. That even if we one time or another go out of the church, there is always that strong urge to get back home. So we went, the first assignment we had was in Zambia. Fortunately, there was one Filipino missionary who was staying there. I went to take the place of Dr. and Mrs. Osorio. I think Love would some have history of that. She knew the family, but let's not elaborate on it. And there was one Dr. Filipino, a Mountain View College graduate, Dr. Ranilo Ang. I think some of you might, but he's older than us, so maybe he not be your contemporaries. He has been there since 1994. I came 2006. So he has been there for 6 years. So it was very fortunate enough for us to be there. And on arrival at the airport, we didn't arrive on Zambia. We landed on a neighbor country, Malawi, the country where I am now. We landed on that country. We should be traveling, going to the other country, Zambia. When we reached the airport, I didn't have a visa for Zambia. I didn't have a visa for Malawi. Then I just prayed, and my wife was already freaking out, and we will be deported, we will be deported. I just prayed and prayed, no, if the Lord sends us here, who could hinder us from going on our journey? So in that airport, very small airport, it's an international airport, but it was just as big as this place. I was just telling them that we are transit in this airport, and as we go to the next airport near the border of Zambia, our our administrator and all those who are picking us up has already our visa for Zambia. But the immigration officer, no, it does not work like that. You will have to sign this paper for deportation. But I said, you could call the other airport where we are landing, because it was just a transit, and tell them that we are already processing the visa for these 2 missionaries. And as I was about to sign the deportation paper, one of our Filipino missionary who was in that country knew that we were arriving. Dr. Conopio, Dr. Mina Conopio. The husband came to the airport, and you know, in Africa, it's whom you know. So he just said, I'm a doctor from this hospital, and we have a missionary stranded there. Could I go in and talk to the immigration officer? He went to talk to them and explained that people in the other city where we are exiting the country are already preparing papers for us. But that immigration officer said, in spite of that journey, you still have to sign for the, so I signed for the deportation papers. And I said, if the Lord wants us to go home, we go home. When we arrived, because it was like a small plane now going to the next city. When we arrived in that city, Lilongwe, I was even scared when we were getting down, because as we were getting down the plane, you ride into the bus going to the terminals. Then there was this man holding up our names. Come, follow me. I said, this is the end of the world. As we were following them, then I saw the Filipino missionaries in that city, Dr. Aba, the dentist, and Dr. Arrogante from Davao. They were already waving us as we told that man to pick you up so that we go directly for your signature for the immigration papers. And they already have processed our transit visa, and we had already a visa going for Zambia. So, in spite of those difficulties, the power of prayers, in spite of us being unlikely missionaries, the power of prayer is there. From the prayers of our parents to the prayer of our brothers and sisters, and as a big family of Seventh-day Adventists praying for each and every one of us, the power is there. Yes, our experiences there would be very nice experiences, because the first experience I want to tell you is as we were traveling, going to Zambia, from Malawi to Zambia. That's 120 kilometers across the border. It was already night. I was relieved of the tension and the blood pressure that was going up. And as we were traveling, my wife was already sleepy. And she told me as we were traveling, it was bush. Wherever you look, left and right, it was just bush all around. And my wife was already very sleepy. She just said, just wake me up if a lion crossed the road or a hyena would cross the road. But the driver said, no, not this side. Maybe after we cross the other border. But it was night, so they said, these are some things that we have. When we reached the hospital, it was a big hospital, 200-bed hospital with only 2 doctors around, and I was the second doctor around. And I asked the doctor there, Dr. Ron, how do you survive? He said, it's before you came, it's 24 hours every day. Sometimes when they were new, when the children were small, when he had calls, he would bring in the family because they were afraid to stay at home with all of the sounds of the crickets and all the night sounds. He would bring them to the hospital, stay in the car. After his call, he brings them back to the house. That is also what happened to us when we started out there. And it is very pathetic. A big hospital, there are so many patients that even would die not being seen by a doctor. Because the children's ward alone, and these are not small rooms, the children's ward is as big as this. There are 40 beds. And I just had a chance to go seeing the patients maybe twice a week, and the other doctor might be able to see them twice a week. There are some days where we don't see the patients, and there are even those that just die in their beds, not being seen. And I, being new, I wasn't complainant then. But my wife, who had a working permit to work there, the first day when we were brought around the hospital, after the orientation, she said, "No, I'm not working." I said, "Why?" When we were being oriented, the smell alone, she was ready almost to faint. But I said, "This is what we are here for." And the other good experience that I want to tell you about is how the Lord really works in those people who have that trust in Him. You know, I'm a trained general surgeon, but you know how general surgery is in the Philippines. And there was one time where there was, I have many experiences, but let me tell you about this little boy, a 9-year-old boy. You know, they live in mud houses in the villages. The hospital is just 5 minutes walk. Behind my house are already the villages. So their houses are made of mud houses, not even bricks, mud houses. They just mold them and they come in circles. They look like mushrooms from the air, mud houses. And there are some partitions within. And this part of Zambia are the warrior tribes of Zambia. They called us the Ngonis. And they have spears, which they just put in the walls. And one of these child was climbing the wall, going to the room of the grandmother to get something. And he fell from the wall on the spear, hitting from the left side going to the right side. So it hit the part of the lung and the heart on the left side, going to the right on the liver. So the lungs, the heart, and the liver was hit. Yeah? The liver, the right part of the liver is here. Yes. And when they arrived in the hospital, the spear was still there. I should have brought the pictures of that. And as they were bringing in the child was a grandson of one of our workers in the hospital. He was in a wheelchair. They were pushing in a wheelchair. But as I looked at the child, it was paper white. I said, "The child has no blood. Try to check if we have blood." Fortunately, this was blood. I just said, "Just go bring to the theater," not even knowing how to do it. Remember, I've been trained as a general surgeon. I've never opened the heart. I've never opened that upper part of the liver and the chest. But as they were bringing in the child into the theater, I went to our doctor's office and just prayed. I said, "Lord, I don't even know what sutures to use, but here is a dying boy. If I don't open, the child dies. If I open, maybe he might live." So I just rushed to the theater, told our anesthetist, "Let him sleep. Whatever blood is there, just transfuse." As I was trying to open, I thought, we use chisels to open this chest. Huh? We don't have the new technology which you might have here. I had to open the chest going down and sorted everything one by one. I looked at the liver. Was very easy to suture the liver, and the bleeding stopped. Cover the lungs that was there. It was every time the lung pumps, blood would be shooting out. I came last to the heart, and I took long because every time I removed my hand from the heart, the blood would be reaching as that heart pumps, you could see the ceiling blood up there. And I said, just continue. As I tried to hold on the heart, I was just whispering, Lord, what suture would I use? Is it an absorbable one, those of you who are in the medical field, or non-absorbable sutures? I didn't know. I didn't have any experience about it. But maybe if it was the intestines, it was the liver, it was the kidney, well, that is bread and butter for us as general surgeons. But when it came to the heart, it was difficult. And there were 2 punctures. It was in and out through the ventricles of the heart. So what I did was I said, anyhow, maybe I have to use an absorbable one, because if I put an unabsorbable, it might make the heart shrink, and just the practical notion of that. I told our assistants there, our nurses, we don't have assistants. Our scrub nurse is our assistant. So I told that nurse to hold on to that heart while I'm trying to suture it. Because as you release the heart, the blood just pumps out. And we were able to manage. But again, after that, we stopped the bleeding. We kept the blood. We had 5 bags of blood running through a 14-year-old boy. And what I just thought, I said, maybe it's just like the lung and the abdomen. I had 1 tube as a drain coming out from the liver. I had a tube coming out from the lung. So I also placed a tube coming out from the heart, so that in case there are still leak, because it has fluids there, it would still be leaking. So I had 3 tubes coming out from the boy. But after doing all, when we have closed the abdomen, I saw all the drainage working well. And the boy was awake. 7 days after, during the days, 3 days after, we removed the one in the abdomen. 4 days after, the one in the lungs. I took out the one in the heart, the last thing, because I don't know anyway when to take it out. So I just took it as the last. When it did not anymore have drainage, I took it out. And when all the wounds were covered in 7 days, we were able to discharge the child walking. And the mother and the grandfather even came to have pictures with me. And I don't know if it was printed, but it went through the mission to the division and the general conference as a story which was written by one of our missionaries also in Africa, Mr. Miller. But these are so many experiences where, in spite of the training that we have, it's always the Lord that is in control. Like I was even surprised to see my colleague there, Dr. Ang, is a certified anesthesiologist, a board-certified anesthesiologist in the Philippines. But when I came to Africa, I was surprised to see him doing general surgeries. There was one patient that was attacked by a hyena, a girl, a 16, 17-year-old young girl, was attacked by a hyena, and all of this was shattered. As I saw Dr. Ang mending the puzzles of the face, I saw the skills given by God. Because as the child was discharged, yes, there would be scars, but the face was returned into its form. The nose, which was already out there, the ears, it was really shattered. And the scars of the injuries would be there, but thanks God, the girl is alive. There's so many stories we could tell you. But behind all this success of the stories is a God who cares for each one of us. Yes, we might be thinking that we are unlikely missionaries. But as I have seen today, all of us are missionaries. You don't have to go to hinterlands. You don't have to go to be pioneers in foreign countries. The adventurers could be missionaries in their own way. They have their friends in school. They have family friends. And the mothers and the fathers, you are the power behind these children. Your power, your prayers are still there to move them from where they will be going. There's always a snare out there, especially in this country we're in. The world is coming to near, but we all have to prepare ourselves that one day soon our labors would not fail us. And as we continue to be faithful to Him, let us always remember that as soon as we accepted Jesus Christ as our personal Savior, all of us has been commissioned to go out there and spread the gospel. May this little experience that I have help us to rekindle our maybe want of helping the mission or going as missionaries as well. Thank you so much.